Hello, welcome to Iggy's Toy Parade and Soldier Review. This is your host, Iggy. Hi, guys. I hope everyone has been doing okay and staying out of trouble. We don't want any trouble. Um, I've been gone for a little while, and I'm apologize for the absence. I had some interesting adventures while I was gone. Um, Currently, I have a bathtub filled with, let's see, how shall I put it? Poopy water. Let's say poopy water. And backed up toilet that when you flush it, everything comes up over the top and onto the floor and into the hallway. So that's been an adventure. It's been a couple weeks now, and the landlady still hasn't addressed the problem. So I'm not quite sure what to do about that as of now. I also have damaged my car several times this week. Today, they're doing construction on my street. They're putting in new pipes, and so they have all these lanes closed and detours and whatnot. And I was going down the street, a detour. It's a very narrow street, and this guy was more on my side than his, and it forced me to go to the side, and I hit a trash can, and that thing went flying. And then the day before, you guys are probably wondering, is this what this video is about? The trials and tribulations of Iggy. Do we want to hear that, guys? No. I'm sorry. But I started, so I'm going to finish. Yesterday, I was backing up and scraped the fence. This is like a slab of concrete or whatever it was. And I scraped my bumper on it really good, so that wasn't very fun. I am working more hours at work now. I had gotten cut down to 8 at one point, but I'm back up to 25 now, which is just right for me. So that's good news. And today I'm going to talk about something that was really fun for me and uh, just really, I got a kick out of it. I really did. I was talking to my friend Carl, and I asked if I had his permission to use his name. His name is Carl Klink. He was one of the founders of the 100th Pennsylvania Veteran Volunteers, known as the Roundheads, during the American Civil War. And I was a member of that group, and he was one of the founding members. Him and a guy named Steve. I don't have Steve's permission to use his last name, so I got to say, Steve was a good guy. Unfortunately, a lot of politics getting involved in the group. You always know you're at the end of a group when it starts getting political. Instead of getting together for fun and all of us having that thing in common, we start nitpicking with each other. And that's kind of sad, but that's just the dynamics, social dynamics of any group. But anyway, that's a long intro to talk about Carl. Carl is a really cool guy. He is a Marine. Um, his brother was a Navy rescue diver, and Carl's father was a professional stuntman in Hollywood. And some of you have actually seen Carl's father without seeing him. Do you remember the Star Trek episode where Captain Kirk disappears from the bridge of the Enterprise and the captain of another ship disappears because they were about ready to start fighting, and they both end up on a planet and they need to use their brains and whatever resources they can find on the planet to fight each other? And Carl's father played the alien, what that was referred to as the Gorn captain. And he talked like, "I will be merciful, Captain Kirk." Anyway, of course, Kirk outsmarts the Gorn and I think he refuses to kill the Gorn. And the aliens who had this contest, I think, were impressed by the fact that even though Kirk won, he refused to kill the Gorn. Anyway, Carl's father was the Gorn. He also did a lot of other TV shows that I know all of you would know by name. Did a lot of Western TV series and Star Trek and others. Carl is a very talented modeler and designer and painter. He's very good at customizing figures. He sent me some photographs of his figures today, and I was like, whoa, I didn't know Carl had all that ability. But it's amazing what you can find out once you sit down and talk with someone, the things that they might be into. And Carl is quite talented, and so is his brother. There's a lot of talent in his family. Anyway, Carl and I pretty much like the same things. There is overlap in our hobbies, just like with my friend Doug. We overlap with things that we like and enjoy. And anyway, I was talking to him about this figure that you see before you, which I put together from different pieces that I bought at a G.I. Joe convention. I mentioned that I'd like to have him mounted on a horse eventually to display in my Cowboy kitchen. And I said, well, he said, why don't you do that? And I said, well, I don't have a horse. He said, no problem. And he sent me this Johnny West horse, which I couldn't believe it. But there's more to the story. When I opened the box, all this stuff came out of it that I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting the horse at all. But when the other things he sent came out of the box, I was really flabbergasted. That's a cool word. I was flabbergasted. Uh, Let me show you my figure before we get too far. Now, the rifle is courtesy of Carl also. He sent that with the horse. Prior to that, I was using what looks like a sharp rifle. Although, even though I have a lot of books that illustrate Western guns, what'd I do with the rifle now? Well, I sure planned this out. I scooted everything to the side so I could cook my dinner on the skillet. I'm in the Cowboy kitchen. Yay, Cowboy kitchen. And I don't know what I did with it now. Must be somewhere around here. And I don't see it. Okay. We'll get to that later. So let's show you the figure. He looks kind of like Alec Baldwin. The detail on this sculpt is really good. His eyes look very natural. That's something hard to capture. And whoever did this captured it very well indeed. Let's see if I can get closer. Can you guys see him? I don't know. There's some spots on his face. I'm not quite sure where that came from. Might be splattered grease from cooking or something. If you notice, he has real buttons on his pants, and the suspenders, or braces as I think they called them in those days, or at least the English did, they actually button onto the trousers, and the shirt buttons up too. Now, I bought a Japanese NCO jacket from the same person who made this, and when I went to put it on the uniform, I ripped the top of the shirt only to find out that it was a real button, and so the button went flying, and I don't know what happened to it. I could never find it again because it's very tiny. This is a Winchester that Carl provided me. It was made by Sideshow Toys. Sideshow Toys, from what I understand, is no longer making 1/6 action figures, but they made Western figures, Civil War figures, World War One figures. I bought a French Foreign Legion figure from, which I think I showed you in a previous video, and a World War One French infantryman circa 1916. And they were really good. It's just that when these were released, I was starting to fade out of the hobby because I had spent so much money in the 1990s that I just couldn't afford it anymore. And almost everything I've showed you is from the 1990s. I have purchased things since then, but the vast majority of it is from the 90s. So let's take a look at the back of now. The boots are dusty, which I really like. That wasn't intentional, but I had this on display in the kitchen, like I said, and it just got covered in dust. But look at that. It makes the boots look really authentic. So let me turn this around so you can see he's got a gun belt. Looks like he's wearing a Texan rig there, or Mexican holster. And you can see here that his suspenders button on. And you go, well, Iggy, that doesn't look like the cowboys that I see in movies and TV shows. Well, that's true. And the reason for that is when they do costume design for a lot of Westerns, in the 1950s especially, they made them look like 1950s cowboys. And they all had the same look to them. People in those days wore mismatched clothing. These pants have a very high rise. So you might ask, well, what is a rise on a pair of pants? Let's see if I can show that to you without knocking this over again. The hat, by the way, I purchased as a Johnny West plastic hat that someone flocked. And it was like a light tan color, and I painted it the starker brown. And then I glued up the brim of the hat. The rise on a pair of pants is this area here to the top button. That's what's known as the rise on a pair of trousers. Now, modern pants are about 6 inches in their rise. So today we wear pants that start here and probably end right there. So you can see there's an additional 6. So they're very high rise. I don't think high rise trousers ended until sometime in the 1950s. Because I remember my dad wearing pants that were very high up on the hips, and he would wear a white shirt and a short tie. And that was quite common. Well, during the Western period, the trousers were also had a high rise like that. He's got it tucked into a pair of boots, and he's well armed because when you're in Comanche or Apache territory, you dare not be caught without firearms. Although the Indians who surprised and bushwhacked this guy would have been very pleased with these weapons, especially the Winchester. I don't know that Indians valued the handgun as much because you had greater range and what's the word I'm looking for? Accuracy with a rifle. And so they would have been more interested in that. So that's our figure. And let's move him so we can get a better look at the Marx horse. Now, this guy is an old fella, so he's been battered a little bit. But he's posable. You can lift up his neck. You can also raise or lower his head. See that? And raise it up. Put it down. There you go. Now he's in the down position. Now, I mentioned that the clothing in movies is different than what they actually wore. There are reference materials that you can access to help you kit out a figure, whether it be a Civil War figure or a Western figure. This book here is very good. It's illustrated by the author, and it's authentic costumes and characters of the Wild West. So let's take a quick peek at that and give you some idea. Now, we've all seen the Western where the girl dresses up like a cowboy and she's really hot. Well, I'm going to show you what she probably really looked like. I should have marked. You know how I am about marking pages. I'm kind of embarrassed now. They have city slickers in here and different time periods. Like this would be a late 1800s cowboy, and you can see he looks quite different than earlier cowboys. This would be a vaquero, I think they call him. Well, in this case, they call him a bandito. Here you go. Here's some girls dressed up in men's clothing. As you can see, not like in the 1950s TV shows where they're real hot. These are kind of not ugly, but very ordinary. This one is kind of dressed like my figure. Yeah, be careful. In the Old West, it was easy to kick the bucket. And this one is apparently very serious, has a double row of bullets in a, well, I guess not a bandolier, but in the waist belt. But this book gives you a lot of reference to what lawmen looked like, what city slickers looked like, what people who were ranchers or cowboys, all sorts of stuff. So it's a really great source of inspiration. And also, here's Tom Horn. I think they hung him in 1904 or in 1905. There's Bat Masterson, looks like quite the dandy, the city slicker. I have a pair of pants like that. And they still fit because my sister bought a size 44, so I still can get into them. Here's what someone who looks like Wild Bill Hickok, Ben Thompson, and so on and so forth. Every other page has a illustration. Here's some cowboys from the early 1900s. So pretty good. Now, so what else did Carl put in that? Hold on a second, guys. I need to get a sip of my orange drink here because my mouth feels a little dry. So I'll take a quick sip. Ah, that's good stuff. Sun-kissed orange. So I'm pulling out stuff, and Carl sent all of this. So you go, what is all this? Well, Carl sent a complete Union soldier's uniform plus accoutrements. He sent the pack, the canteen, the haversack, the tin cup, the waist belt with bayonet and scabbard, the cap box, and cartridge box, plus the brogans. The only thing he didn't have was the kepi. Oh, he also included a shirt, and then he included some World War I German uniforms, and this is all the accessories for the various things. So let's open it up and take a look, okay? I should have not... Okay, hold on. I'm going to have to put the phone down again. I wish I had a tripod to do this so that you guys wouldn't be looking at that. And I managed not to turn it off. That's good. Oops. 7 times? I don't think so. Once is good enough. Okay. So here's a German overcoat for the uh, 23 Silesian um, Regiment, not regiment, Abteilung. And they came from Silesia. I don't know how to say it in German. Is it Silesia? Silesia? I'm not sure. Anyway, it's no longer part of Germany. It's part of Poland now. And it was a sort of a backwoods farming area. Uh, Guys from like Dusseldorf and Berlin and stuff like that would probably make fun of their accent. Let's see. This is a gas canister for a World War I gas mask. You'll notice that it's differently shaped than the World War II. And here's an NCO or officer's cap. It was virtually identical to the men's cap, except it had the leather brim, I guess they call that. It's pretty cool. Then we have this would be a cavalryman's jacket or a pilot's jacket. And Lancers and Ulans and all those guys would wear a coat like this. Had a very slimming effect. I think Ben van Richthofen wore a coat like that. It shows here that he has a wound badge and the Iron Cross first and second class. You can see it has red piping. It also came with a pair of trousers, and it also has red piping on the side, which is kind of hard to see. Is that it? There you go. It's the red piping on the trousers. And a pair of officer's boots he included. And then here's a regular enlisted man's jacket. Now in 15 or 1916, they changed the uniforms and they had the buttons covered by a flap. I think at one point they discontinued this bottle green collar too. I don't think this is an enlisted man's jacket though, because of the shoulder boards. This is a wound badge first class because it's black. They also had a gold one and a silver one. These are puttees or leg wraps. This is his belt with the bread bag. And this would have been for wire cutters, this bag here. And then what else is in here? Oh, this is the stock to a PO8 Luger, which he also sent me, but I don't see it now. It's probably with the rifle that I misplaced. So you might have questions, well, about the uniforms. How can I customize mine? What references can I use? There's a lot of stuff you guys can see, such as this one here. This is very well done. This is what they would look like in 1918, 1917, even part of 1916. That's when the Stahlhelm was introduced. Here's the canteen. And then Carl also included, let's see, this one is the Yankee uniform. And he's got canteens in here, bread bags. There's a haversack with a tin cup. And he pretty much did it all. Here's the knapsack, and it shows a rolled up gum blanket on the top there. So that's pretty cool. He did an amazing job putting this all together for me. Here's the belt with the bayonet and scabbard. Here's the cartridge box, which they have on the belt. Some guys wore them on their belt, others wore a sling. I wore a sling with mine, and it had a brass US plate on it. And on the strap, it had an eagle, a brass eagle. Oh, here's that rifle I was telling you about. I think, wait, no, this is another Winchester. He sent me 2 Winchesters, by the way. So that was pretty cool that he did that. So if you have questions about, putting together a Civil War soldier, they have books like this. There's a lot more references. This is just some of the reference books that I have. They have books like this. And I just dropped something on the floor, which means I will never see it again. And I don't want to put the phone down again, guys, so I don't want you to suffer through that. But he's got several Confederate uniforms and a Yankee uniform in here, plus shirts. And they're all very well done. Okay, guys, I know this is a lengthy video, but, I missed you guys. I haven't seen you for a while. And so I want to thank you for coming back. For those of you who've joined the Iggy Army, I want to thank you. For those of you who haven't, I suggest that you do so. I should tell you a little bit about the channel. I do 132 or 54 millimeter toy soldiers, mostly World War II, but a lot of Civil War and French and Indian War types. Also Western figures with Native Americans and cowboys. It's easier to say cowboys and Indians, but I asked an Indian once, "Are you offended by being called an Indian?" He said, "F no." I said, "Okay, just wondering." Anyway, that's all I got for you this time, guys. Thanks for coming along. I do appreciate you. If you haven't done so, why don't you hit the like button? I mean, that is if you like it. I don't know. I hope you do. Sometimes I get a little discouraged because this is video 225 and I haven't even breached 1,000 subscribers. So I guess that means a lot of people don't care for Iggy too much. So I'm sorry. I'm doing the best I can for you. Anyway, I don't want to get too depressed here. So let's move on. So let's say goodbye. It's a dusty trail out there. So happy trails until we meet again. Keep smiling until then, okay? Bye. Good night, Wilbur.